A senior executive should be looking at the vision, should be looking at the big picture. They shouldn't be involved with the day-to-day activities of an organization. And you find that a lot of those individuals that have been promoted have still like to do the same things that they did before their promotion.
Welcome to the No Excuse Pro podcast, your weekly dose of motivation and actionable advice. If you're a realtor, financial planner, business owner, or anyone who's tired of making excuses and ready to take your success to the next level, you've come to the right place. Join your host, Kevin Brierton, each week as he chats with industry leaders who are going beyond the excuses to achieve their goals. So no excuses accepted. Let's get started.
Hey, Lar. Hey, no, your video's looking great. You're looking great, man. Hey, I really appreciate you jumping on here on the No Excuse Pro podcast, where we're recording these episodes to help people break through their excuses and overcome challenges internally sometimes and externally with so many excuses. And you know, everybody has excuses. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've done. Everybody has excuses. So I want to kind of just break down a few things with you. I want to break down your story, your journey. I want to talk about what makes somebody successful overall. And so we'll kind of jump right into it. I know you're a Guinness Book of World Records, which is really, really cool. But I want to tell people who you are and what you've done and your journey and your path and your success.
Okay. I'll start back when I was 7 years of age, when I was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is a form of bone cancer. And at that point in time, chemo was not available. I had surgery and radiation, and the surgery essentially was because of to amputate my left leg. So I had that done, had a 5% chance of survival at that point in time. But by God's grace, I'm here today, 57 years later, and still kicking. And I feel very fortunate about that. I've had a great life up to this point, and as I said, I just feel very fortunate to wake up every day.
So, what mentally going through something like that at such a young age? Was there anything that kind of helped you push through or made a difference in your success while you're going through those times in early days?
To me, first of all, it was the encouragement from family and friends. I was different, and back in the late 60s, a disability was perceived differently than a disability that is perceived today. Even cancer was kind of a scary word. It still is a scary word, but it was even more scarier back in the 60s because it was essentially a death sentence for most people. Yeah. And so I had the encouragement of family and friends. I grew up in a neighborhood back on the East Coast in Maryland, where I was surrounded by friends that were a couple of years older than me, a couple of years younger than me, and they all said, "Come on!" They invited me to still play basketball, football, and so on and so forth. And again, no excuses. And I just felt. And I probably also very fortunate because I have a strong determination, and I really want to be able to prove a point. And I wanted to show my friends, my peers, that I could still play basketball, hopping on one leg and playing basketball or football or whatever the case may be.
So that's so interesting you say that. So I, at some point, want to maybe write a thesis on this because that's sounds like a cool thing to do. We'll see. But I actually think that people that don't have trials and don't have challenges are actually at a disadvantage. I was challenged with, not being a great reader. And I'm actually happy about it because it pushed me harder in school. It made me realize I had to try harder and push harder. And I have found that I have been, I guess, theoretically more successful than other people that didn't have those challenges. And so I actually think that the challenges is actually makes you who you are because and even in the Bible, they talk about it. You have to have trials to, shape you and who you are. Anything around that? Any other, insight you have around that, and why maybe sometimes these trials happen, and how they could actually be a blessing?
That's a darn good question, Kevin. I look back, and it made me, I think, a better person today than maybe some other individuals that had an easy road through their life. I had to work. I had to work harder. You use more energy when you're running. I do a lot of running on crutches. A doctor had mentioned to me that I use 7 times more energy with the crutches and the whole body workout running than somebody just that's running on 2 legs. I just felt that I had a stronger determination than a lot of other individuals, and that was so I could show so I could show others that I could do it. And again, it comes back to prove a point. I felt like, and I still do, that I'm trying to prove a point every day. With the career that I've had, the new business that we just started, my wife and I just started, the athletic achievements that I've accomplished over the
Yeah.
years. I think I've dug deeper, if you will, because of what transpired when I was 7 years old.
That's so awesome. And so I want to keep this in drive time. We're doing great on time right now, but I want to talk a little bit about your field and what you're doing with Jen, your wife, and what's the problem in your field right now, and what are you trying to solve, and what field are you guys in now?
It's interesting because I'm probably a little bit different than many of your guests, since I'm probably older than a lot of your guests. But I spent 33 years in the federal government as an employee and retired from the federal government in 2016. I was able to have a very successful career. 2 months after I retired, they called me back and asked me to be a senior advisor for an institute within within NIH, National Institutes of Health. So, and I'm still there. So I've had 40 years plus with the federal government. But and in addition to that, I was working a part-time gig for a executive coaching company. My wife's an executive coach. They had some issues back a couple years ago. And we felt at that point in time, essentially, God led us to opening up our own business. And we started back in February of last year, Chloupek Consulting Services. My wife is the face of the organization. There's no question about it. She's an experienced executive coach. She's a facilitator, management trainer, and so on and so forth. And we just felt that there was a great need based on our experience working with an executive coaching company, but we felt we could be bigger and better. But it's essentially two of us. We started that back, as I mentioned, back in February of 2023. And we target not just federal government, but also private sector and nonprofit organizations. Jen, as I said, is the face of the organization. I do all the contracts. I do the nuts and bolts. I keep her straight, if you will, because I've got the organizational skills. And Jen coaches senior executives, up and coming executives, to become the best leaders that they can be, not from a technical standpoint, but from a soft skills standpoint. A number of times you find leaders that are experts, obviously, in their field, but lack the soft skills. They don't know how to communicate. If they do communicate, it might not be the best way or most effective way of communicating. So Jen,
Give me a couple examples of that. I mean, I think that would be good for listeners and to hear a little bit more about soft skills. So tell me a little bit more about that.
you find that sometimes when you get to that C-suite level, that you've been a micromanager, for example, and you don't want to be able to give it up. But you've got your subordinates. Let's just say you're president of a small company and you've got a couple of VPs under you, but you still don't want to give them up. What are you paying these VPs to do? Let them handle some of these nuts and bolts, some of these day-to-day activities. Senior executives should be looking at the vision, should be looking at the big picture. They shouldn't be involved with the day-to-day activities of an organization. And you find that a lot of those individuals that have been promoted have still like to do the same things that they did before their promotion. And sometimes it was the day-to-day activities, the nuts and bolts and so forth. And so you're seeing that. So micromanaging is one of the big things. There's no question about it. It could also be their personality style. How brash are they? How effectively are they dealing with their subordinates? Without divulging, talking about their stories, it kind of surprises you hearing how some of these individuals treat others and their subordinates, or even some of their equals. It's teaching them to be, for lack of a better term, softer and kinder to their colleagues. Those are probably the two things that we see the most when Jen is coaching some of our executives, and then also as I had mentioned earlier, she's coaching some of the up and coming, the ones that have potential to take that next step, whether it's within that organization or maybe even outside of that organization, and she's coaching how do you become a better person? How do you become a better leader? And giving them some tips. It's a process-driven type of coaching where she has 12 sessions, and each session is designated to a particular point, and it is really a great process. And the way I know that she's successful and we're successful is because you get the feedback from these participants that, hey, I just got promoted, or I'm moving to this another company and I'm going to be senior VP as opposed to maybe VP in their present company or their previous company. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see how these people are able to take it to the next level.
So people are. Hopefully everybody's breaking through on this, but when people don't break through those challenges and maybe they don't give up specifically something that they need to give up at that time based on their role, like what's the easiest way to kind of remind them pleasantly that, hey, this isn't the right thing? Or maybe it's for that person to be reminded daily that, hey, I need to not do that. Or is this the best use of my time? Are there any ways and tricks and tips you'd have to maybe remind either ourselves or your clients, like that maybe they're not doing the highest and best use of that time? How do you do that in a way, both from your coaching standpoint, but also, or maybe a friend standpoint, and also from your own standpoint, to remind yourself to be, make sure you're aware of that?
I tell you, we're fortunate because most of our clients have high potential. So they're looking to be better. They're looking to get to that next level. Or those that are at the president or the CEO level, they're looking for additional tips to stay at that level. They're looking for ways of maybe better strategizing the overall growth of the organization. it's an interesting mixed bowl of things that we are asked to do, or Jen's asked to do, not even correct, sometimes just to enhance one's skills. Yeah, we're not here to take on a problem child, to be quite honest with you. There are times that some of these individuals might be burnt out, and Jen might even say, is this the best organization for you right now? Maybe they've been a 20-year employee. They're tired of the routine, the day-to-day stuff, and they maybe maybe they just need to be told, let's look
So,
outside.
Larry, I think this is so interesting because I was just talking to a new business partner just before this. And one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast was I always felt challenged with wanting to have impact and worth, but also I don't need to hold people accountable to what they should be doing. Making them aware of what they should do and having communication and collaboration around that is really good. But for years, I always kind of go back and forth. Oh, should I hold my partner accountable to doing their daily things they should be doing, right? And what I found is if you start doing that too much, then they just don't want to talk to you because you're like, oh my gosh, Kevin's going to make me feel bad because I didn't work out today, or I didn't, eat right, or I went to the, bar too much, or didn't make my sales calls. And so the list goes on. And so I think the key is whether it's a friend or whether it's a family member, trying to, help the right way, or a business colleague, or maybe somebody on your team that's a salesperson or a business partner, is to be there as a resource and a guide, but not forcing them to do something. And like you said, they kind of already have to be there. You're just there to kind of guide them and make these small corrections, even though maybe they're bigger corrections, but you make small corrections that, or over time, they kind of become a big correction over time, but they're small at one time. What do you think about that? I mean, that's where I've kind of landed. And one of the reasons why I have this, because I push this out. If people want to listen to it, awesome. We're getting great feedback and having a lot of fun doing it. And I think there's real value in doing this, but actually holding people accountable. Did you make X amount of calls, or did you do this? That's a challenge, right?
That is a challenge. And, it's interesting because I'm listening to what you're saying, and we also get into the area of polishing one's skills. And that's the thing too. We're trying to enhance their soft skills. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. But some of these individuals just also need somebody to talk to that's outside of their organization that can say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts if I do this with my staff? And it's very hard to find confident within an organization to just bounce things off of. I've been a very big person on mentoring over my career. I used to average 2 to 3 mentors or mentees over the course of each year. I take them over 12 months, and I love watching them grow. That was one of my big things that I enjoyed in my positions throughout my career in the federal government. And
that's awesome. And I want to stick on that for a second, because that leads me to exactly where I wanted to go just by chance. Is there a formula or pattern to that success or becoming successful? I know you mentored people over the years. You have a coaching company, but is there a pattern for success that you've seen over the years?
I'm a true believer in having a mentor, and it was interesting. I had, and I probably had a mentor early on in high school when I was a sophomore, and one of the senior football players. I was since I didn't play football, I took stats, and the football coach loved me, but a couple of the senior football players just kind of took me under their wings when I first got to high school, because it was only 10th through 12th grade, and kind of was my protector, if you will, and kind of helped me navigate high school. And I've always remembered that. And I always felt, that was huge for me as a 10th grader, that a senior was taking care of me. And throughout those years afterwards, when I first began in the federal government after college, I had a mentor, and it was an informal mentor, but it was somebody that I could go to. And I felt, you know, when I got to the senior level that I did get to in the government, that I vowed that I would do the same thing with others that were coming into the government for the first time or coming to NIH for the first time, and to see for them to have that opportunity to meet with me once a month, twice a month, and just bounce ideas off to kind of hold their hand, if you will. But I think they benefited so greatly. The government is a huge bureaucracy, as we all know,
Yeah.
and you can get lost pretty quickly. And there's just so much to know that you get somebody that has had X number of years of experience that can guide you and tell you that this might be the pathway to go, or this other way might be better for you. I just think mentoring is so important. So I think, getting back to one of your questions, was that I think some of these executive coaches also need somebody to bounce ideas off, kind of to help them be able to get some solid feedback, but not have somebody that's associated with their organization just because of the level that they're at.
Well, I could tell you, Larry, I've done coaching now. I started coaching back in 2007, changed my life, made me realize that I needed to be more committed to what I was doing. And it was amazing. Now, then roll that forward. I've done other coaching programs now for on or off anywhere about 8 years or so. I would say on for 10 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did one in 2007 and then took a little break, just put my head down and worked. And then coaching. The coaching is really important to get the outside perspective. I think the outside perspective is really big key. So a lot of companies try to say, well, we got coaching in-house and we got this. And I'm telling you, the outside perspective is a really big deal, because if you're in the same trenches, so to say, it's good to be in a similar trench, maybe somewhere else, but giving you insight on, hey, what about this? Or how do you look at this? And you don't want just somebody to say yes, 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 or you don't want somebody with the ulterior motives. Maybe they don't want you to go spend money because the budget's getting tight, but really you need to spend money because you need to grow your territory. And now you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, because the person that should just say, yeah, you need to do that, is actually not saying it because they have their own agenda that they got to fulfill. So the outside thought process and perspective is a really big deal. And I think it's been, for me, a very big deal to have somebody else to bounce it off of. But how do you make sure a mentor situation doesn't just become hey, I'm talking to a friend once a week or twice a week, and then you don't make progression there? Because that's something I've seen with coaching is, okay, you kind of hit plateaus, and then you kind of go, okay, well, now what? Hey, I had a great week, you had a great week, and then off and running. How do you make sure that does not happen?
For those people that know me, I'm a straight shooter. And it's one of those things that I'm not saying that every mentee of mine was perfect by any means. I've had some hard conversations with some of those folks, and they were not easy. They're absolutely not easy conversations, but nevertheless, I know they could become a better person and a better employee if I had those conversations. So I did. Sometimes they don't agree, but I think deep down inside, for most of those conversations, they agreed. They might not admit it initially, but down the road, 2 months down the road, 6 months down the road, they said, "Hey, Lar, you were correct." And and it just, everybody's different. Everybody has a different personality, and there were some people I was hard toward. I really was, because I saw their potential. And
it's something you just hit on. There's a saying on it, and I'll probably butcher this, and we're coming into time, but it's, success is measured in the number of uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have. And being a mentor, as a successful mentor, what you're talking about is having those uncomfortable conversations with your mentee, is about success. And sometimes we don't want to have those tough conversations, whether it's with our kids, our friends, our spouses. Success is a little broader than just the nuts and bolts of making money. It's about life skills overall. And I really like that you talk about the soft skills, because, you got to have the action, and you also have to have the soft skills enough to have the finesse, because there's the action of what it takes. But if it's just brute strength, you also have to have the finesse to, actually take action and then make it happen with the finesse. So something I'm going to leave everybody with is something I've been kind of pondering since I actually watched my son. My son and I were talking about how he wanted to jump higher. Okay, so this is something that is right along the lines of action and how do we help people break through these excuses. He wanted to jump higher. He's like, Dad, can we look on YouTube on how to jump higher? I want to jump higher. He's 10 years old. He plays basketball, loving it, doing a great job. And he goes, so we turned the YouTube on and we started looking at it and found like a great video right away. And the guy goes, well, there's 3 things you got to do. And then they all incorporated doing the thing. He's like, you're never going to get better at whatever you want to do unless you're doing the thing. And he's like, if you want to get better at jumping, jump. Like, there's no other magic. Like, yes, you're going to have, I could give you steps to do it, and I'll give you steps to do it, but there's no other way to do it other than jumping. You need to jump. Yeah. And doing the thing was really important, I think. And that's why, we are all on sometimes these Zoom calls. And yes, I'm doing a podcast right now talking about some of this stuff. But man, stop spending so much time not doing the thing and go do the thing.
Yeah.
I love that. Man. Go do the thing, right? And so now my son's like, well, I want to jump higher. I'm like, well, are you doing the thing? Oh, I didn't jump. Like, all right. Right? Like, do the story, right? Do the thing. So, man, I could talk to you forever. I really appreciate you coming on. You guys have a great coaching company. I know you have a couple books as well. If anybody wanted information on your coaching company, how would they reach you?
They can reach out to Chloupek Consulting Services.com. And we have a website. They can reach us through that. Or if they want to reach out to me, my number is 301-257-0382. Again, 301-257-0382.
Awesome. Well, you guys are amazing as a team now together. And I just really appreciate you coming on. Again, I probably have like 20 more questions I want to ask you, but I'm going to hold it to drive time. Thanks again for coming on. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you and your reviews. Give us a 5-star review on whatever you're listening to this on. We want to help more people break through excuses with ideas. Mentors like Lar is a great mentor. So share this, like this, and send it to a friend. We appreciate you. Let's break through those excuses this week and take on your goals. But leave all the excuses behind, okay? Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.
And there you have it, folks. Another enlightening episode of the No Excuse Pro podcast is in the books. A heartfelt thank you to today's guests for sharing their wisdom, and to you, our valued listeners, for spending your time with us. If you're ready to ditch the excuses and level up, make sure to subscribe and find all our episodes at noexcusepropodcast.com. Don't forget, the only thing standing between you and your goals is the story you tell yourself. So no excuses accepted here. Take action and make it happen.